Good morning and good afternoon, valued customers. Glad that you guys could all join here today for the Autocall webcast. We got a real exciting lineup for you today. But before we get going with that, I wanted to just kick off by truly saying thank you for a super successful FY20. We saw exponential growth again this year. 94% year-on-year growth. I'm young in my career, 12 years here at Johnson Controls, but I've yet to be able to say 94% growth. And that wouldn't be made possible if we didn't have you guys here representing this great brand of Autocall today. So I appreciate it. And I guess I should really have started off by saying who I am. So I might be a not so familiar face to some of you that are joining us here today. Recently, a couple months ago, I've taken over as the sales leader for Autocall in North America. Can't be more excited about it. And having time to spend with all of you, most of you so far, I would say, has been nothing short of great. And I look forward to what the future has for us. So speaking of the future, I'm going to turn it over to Peter for some housekeeping rules, and then further on to just some knowledge about what we're going to be doing in the future to build this great brand and to continue to breed success within this organization with the help of you guys, our great partners. So thank you. Peter.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. So again, just a couple of housekeeping rules here. I know we're all at this point in the COVID scheme webcast and teleconferencing experts. So as you know, and you can tell we're on Teams today, we're trying something a little bit different. Is we're using what I'll call standard Teams. We've tried in the past a couple of times to use some of the Teams variants, and we experienced challenges with those with being able to open up for questions and so forth. So basically the way we're doing it today is this is an open forum. So everybody has the ability to talk, ask questions, and interact. The downside of that is that we just have to make sure that everybody is muted, which it looks like everybody is, but we'll hear your background noise. And also, I don't see anyone's camera on, which is great, but please also, don't turn your camera on. It slows the whole thing down with this many people on the session. So we'll stay muted and we'll stay off camera until you ask a question. You can ask your questions in the chat screen. And of course, at the end, we'll do an open forum where you'll be able to unmute yourself and then speak directly with us and have a dialogue, which is great. We wanted to also make sure it was clear the session is being recorded. We're going to set this up on the Autocall website after we're done so that other people can listen to it if they missed it, or you can go back and revisit the content. Some people are a little uncomfortable with being recorded or with their voices, on. So if you feel that way about it, just make sure that you drop now and you can listen to the replay afterwards. We want to make sure everybody's aware that this is going to be posted publicly. So with that said, a quick overview of our agenda, and I think we've got a really good one today. The Autocall Academy series is designed to basically get us together, and we're going to shoot to do this on a monthly basis. And the idea will be to use it as a forum to deliver information about new products, maybe additional training or deeper insights into existing products that we have, and then also take a chance to introduce you to new configuration tools, new marketing resources, essentially anything that can benefit you from a product or business standpoint to help you win with Autocall. So today we have a really good selection or a really good variety of topics. We'll start with a recently launched ESNet enhancement, which is automated notification appliance synchronization by Lim Bin Tran. Ben is the product manager for the product for the release. So you've got you've got the expert here on the line. And then we'll be talking to Jason Crouch, where he's going to go through some enhancements to Navigator and configuration tools. Then Mike Hugh is going to talk about a really important topic, which is accountability and fire alarm system testing, and just how that works, and how people perceive testing and proof, and what is proof and what isn't proof, which will lead us right into a really exciting launch, or I should say a preview of the launch of Zap, which is a market-leading inspection tool by Chelsea Fu. So with all that being said, what I'm going to do now is switch over here and pass it off to Ben to talk to you about ESNet, and Ben's going to share his screen and we'll get moving. So thank you, Ben.
All right. So thank you, Peter, for the kind word. And again, I want to thank everyone for for taking their time today. Good morning and good afternoon. So again, my name is Liam Bin Tran. You can call me by Bin, it's easier that way. So I'm a product manager for network and connected services. I've been with the company for at least 8 years, mostly in R&D. I'd actually been working on the ESNet, the project itself, from the beginning. Like Peter said, I know my way around. It's really my pleasure today to give you the aspect of what ESNet can bring, and more specifically, really about the notification appliance synchronization using ESNet. So just a key point again, just coming back on ESNet and why it makes it so special. Of course, we have the fastest, highest capacity, and most flexible network on the market. So that's a huge competitive advantage. When we're talking about performance speeds, we're going up to 100 megabits per second, either by Ethernet or fiber. So that represents when you're doing network programming, you can download from a single point all the way to 99 nodes on the loop within a matter of minutes. Also, in terms of capacity, we're able to support up to 687 nodes spread out to 7 loops if you're using a TrueSight workstation server. And of course, we don't only support one single topology of a ring, but we support multiple topology, whether it's stars, bridge ring, ring with spurs. So there's the possibilities are limitless. The other nice feature also is the use of supplemental traffic. So not only can we just transport fire network traffic, but we can also use that traffic to traditionally use for the TrueSight workstation remote clients, but we've also have customers been using our ESNet network to transport their own data stream. So that's something that's been really more adopted now. And of course, what comes with ESNet is all the tools, the diagnostic tools to really help you out for easier and faster pinpoint of network issues and performance issues. So a little bit of context now when we're talking about notification appliance synchronization and what that means. So in order to meet the NFPA 72 standard, in accordance with the American with Disability Act, what that requires is that if you do have 2 or more visual notification, namely strobes, that are visible from a single point of view, they need to flash in synchronization. So that helps really prevent what we call photosensitive epilepsy, and is mainly used in when we're talking about large open building, whether it's airport, atrium, malls, or stadium. So from that point, you want to make sure that all your strobes are flashing in sync, or else, even if I don't have epilepsy, that would drive me crazy, right? So traditionally, have a single panel that would be connecting all those strobes together in order to have those strobes synchronized at the same flashing frequency. But if you can imagine in those type of environment that are really large, that means that you need to really run longer wire runs. And also you would need to use NAC, what we call NAC extenders. So that's really adding more complexity. Moreover, if there's any issue with that single panel driving all those strobes, well, you can imagine if that panel going down, then the whole notification also goes down. So that's representing a single point of failures. Most of our competitors use hardware sync modules, and it would require additional programming to have all those NAC circuits sync together. So that's adding, again, more complexity when we're talking about programming the system. So what the benefit of ESNet now, with the ability to synchronize those notification appliances using ESN, what that represents. So if you're thinking about having multiple deployment with several panels connecting into the ESNet network, then you don't need to run all those strobes into one single panel. What happens is that you can distribute those strobes to all those different panels and have them sync using the network. So that's really giving you the capabilities for more flexible, I would say, configuration, plan, and design. So that's really going to simplify the installer to install the system in the most efficient and most convenient way. And that really means potentially more cost-effective way. What makes it special is that ESNet doesn't require any additional sync hardware. It's built into the card, so it makes it even more simple. So just to explain a little bit what I've been talking about in terms of the differences between having the network sync capability and not. So in this example, without the network sync, and where you would see basically 3 wings with 3 panels, and there's a common area here where all the strobes are essentially needs to be synced. So in this aspect, what you need to do is to have all those strobes in the common area be linked into the ES panel on the east wing. And because of the longer wire, then you need the NAC extender that we've shown here on the 4009 here. But as you can imagine, again, having to run all those wires in that building, well, could be really expensive and complicated. And of course, if the ES panel in the east wing goes down, then that means that all the strobes in that common area would also go down. So now with the ESNet using network sync, that means that those strobes that are in common area can spread out to those 2 other panels that are in north and south wing, and then have the ESNet synchronize them by the network. So of course, we have all the algorithm to make sure that they're synced within sub-second and ensuring that we are meeting the NFPA 72 standard. But that really eliminates the need for long wire runs, NAC extenders, and even if the ES panel goes down on the east wing, well, the strobes in that common area will still work for the from the panel from the north and south wing. So talking about some design consideration, of course, when we want to use the ESNet synchronization, there's the notion of what we call maximum distance from the master sync node. I'll go into detail in explaining the terms. So the master sync node is a designated node on a loop that is kind of the master timekeeper. So he's kind of the maestro, making sure that everyone is in sync. So that master sync node can be any nodes in the loop, whether it's a Fire panel, 4100 ES or any other panel, or the TrueSight workstation server. And if you're using multiple loops, then it's highly recommended that you use the TrueSight workstation server as a designated master sync node. Now, depending on whether you use the different media type, Ethernet or fiber, you can have a distance up to 30 hops, and I'll explain that later. For DSL, it's 10. And if you're mixing media, you have to use the smallest distance when you're mixing them. So in the case where you use Ethernet fiber with DSL, then it's still a maximum of 10 distances. So this is where I'm just going to explain a little bit the concept of how you're going to calculate the maximum distance when you're designing your system. So taking the example here of a single ring topology, where the node 1 would be the designated master sync node, then if you assume that the synchronization data flows from one direction or the other, you have to think that if there's a break in the line, then the data needs to flow back to the master sync node, and that distance is the maximum distance. So in this case, we're talking about DSL. Well, if there's a break between node 11 and 1, well, if you flow back counterclockwise from node 11, then you have to make sure that it's a maximum of 10 going backward to node 1. In a typical ring topology, the calculation is simple. So it's the maximum of nodes minus 1. So this is also true for whether it's DSL, but also for Ethernet or fiber. So in the example on the right, well, you see the same ring topology on Ethernet and fiber. And then if there's a break, then we'll need to make sure that that's 30 hops that is calculated. So in this case, for the Ethernet fiber, well, there's 31 nodes minus 1, which gives you the 30 hops from the master sync node. Now, on more complex topology, if you're using mixed topology, in this case, for example, you have bridge ring here. So it's the same calculation, but you have to consider that the other bridge node, in this case, on the right, if there's a break in the line, you need to go back into the master sync node again. So the first ring, you would still have up to 11 nodes, but the second ring, which is broken here, well, it can only go back to 10 nodes maximum because of the jump that is between those 2 rings here. And of course, since we're going up to 99 nodes in a loop, there's a possibility of supporting up to 99 nodes synchronized. using Ethernet or fiber, but there's a specific configuration that needs to be done in order to support that. And this is the example here that I'm showing here, that you have 31 node where you have the master sync node, and with 2 other bridge and the additional 3rd bridge here, that's how you would be able to configure to support up to 99 nodes. We'll have all the documentation that tells you how to configure that. Of course, that is available, but again, this is all part of the detail that we need to consider in terms of supporting the synchronization. Lastly, what I want to also to let you know is during your configuration, when you want to diagnose, the ESNet diagnostic tools allows you really to give you information in terms of which node are sync, which one has been designated as the sync master, and of course, if you enable the network sync, if there's any break and it is not sync, you would have a trouble on the Fire panel, but it will also show up on the ESNet diagnostic. So there's this kind of a suffix here that shows you which one are sync with an S and which one is the master sync node. So again, this is really a great feature that we have. It's unique in our industry, and really happy to bring it over to Autocall. I think it's going to bring some competitive advantage and really simplify the install, make it more easier and convenient. So again, I'll be till the end if you have any question. But at this moment, what I'll do, if Jason is here, I don't know if he's on the line, but I'll pass him to him. Perfect. So
okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Ben. I'm just going to share my screen. So if you could please let me know if you can see my screen.
We can. Thank you.
Yes.
That's great news. Thank you. So good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jason Crouch. I think most of you know me. I've been with the company just a little over 30 years. Started life in the UK, as you can probably tell from my accent. I also spent about 10 years in the Middle East, working with our business partners over there, and so far 7 years in the US. And I'm really currently responsible for our sort of sales and design tools, with an ultimate goal of making it easy to do business with us. And so refining steps and processes from, creating estimates to complex designs and all of the associated documentation, such as, battery calcs and system documents that go with that whole process. So what I wanted to do today was really to start off with where this idea emanated from was our IDNAC point-to-point designer. So hopefully most of you have seen this tool, which we've used to replace the former TrueNAC point-to-point calculation tool. This was released at the end of June this year. And again, thanks to a lot of folks, because one of the things we tried to do with this was to, rather than come up with what we think you need, is we actually went out and got a lot of feedback. So you folks could actually help us design, have design input so we deliver what you really need. And I say the responses was very overwhelming. And so far the feedback's been excellent. What we also got some feedback on is that, how do we do really, really quick quotes, and it's great. We could go into Navigator, we can go into product selectors, but what about for some of the companies that, we got feedback on that generate 50 to 100 rapid quotes in, say, a monthly period. So what we decided to do was add this FQQ, which is like a featured quick quote to our to our existing IDNAC point-to-point designer tool, really to give you a very rapid, fluid interface for selecting products. Yeah, and the tool's going to deliberately contain no pricing, right? So what it will do is that once you've made your selections and you've selected all the particular products, and it's itemized by area or floor. So for example, if you was doing a high-rise building, you can quickly go through the different tabs and say, right, let's put all the devices from floor 1 in a floor 1 container, floor 2 respectively. And then it will generate a CSV file that you can upload to Navigator for pricing those ancillaries. And the way we've designed it is really to follow, a typical design process. So, if you get an inquiry from a consultant, if you've been fortunate enough where that's been engineered and you've already got a takeoff, that's great because you've got quantities, or whether you have to do a takeoff from a drawing manually or from a riser, it follows that logical steps where we've actually pieced together all the parts, like a smoke detector in a standard base, a smoke detector in a sounder base, and all the different types of modules and ancillaries. And we logically go through like the ID net for initiating, ID NAC, conventional NAC, and then there's a section for third-party products. In addition, the other thing that we do is we're providing some sort of base calculations. And again, this is for estimating purposes. So while you're making those respective selections, we're estimating the number of loops required, the number of addressable NACs, repeaters, speaker wattage, cable calculations, etc. And then there's the ability in each of those respective tabs to say, I want to allow 20% design capacity. So to make sure that, it will meet future expansion needs. And then what we've got is a targeted launch plan. So we're working on this tool at the moment. We've taken a lot of feedback. We've sounded it through, a number of folks that have tried out a prototype and confirmed that it really does provide that fluid, rapid interface. And we're proposing to get this released, the first release, by the end of November. And we want that to include the ID NAC, NAC and third-party user-defined products. With a stretch goal, which I'm hoping we can do, to get a very simplified 4007 ES configurator in there. And then in January, we want to add the 4010 and we want to add a labor piece. And this labor piece is really allows a user to define different times, for example, like hours and minutes associated to different product categories. For example, like a detectors, standard bases, sounder bases, etc. And then what it will do will give you a total based on your selection of the estimated labor from an installation perspective, from a commissioning perspective, and a service perspective. And then in March, we're looking to update that point-to-point designer piece to allow you to do multiple ID NACs in the same sheet rather than creating multiple instances. And then we move on to Selection Navigator, and obviously the latest enhancements, the latest addition that we've been busy working on is the smart panel replacement, the optimal placement configurator. We first went live on July the 27th, and that was kind of our initial release where we only had basic system and transponders. We followed that with a release on the 18th where we added in the remote annunciators, network display units, and then network voice command centers. But we still wasn't done. There's a lot of systems that fall under that smart panel. It's not just one system. There's multiple, subsystems. So, September the 8th release included dual redundant CPU panels. We added the ability for aux power and RUI devices. And this is where it's kind of a game changer, because when you look at smart panels only designing the panel and what goes inside a panel. And it doesn't count for any loading. So it doesn't know that you've got a fully loaded ID net loop. It doesn't know you've got any notification devices on a NAC card, for example, right? And it doesn't do any automatic battery calculations, And so when we start baking all these features into the new tool, where we are taking into all the power, we are doing automatic battery calculations, it then makes sense to allow users to you would typically add manually afterwards with smart panels, such as an LCD annunciator. We've now included all those ancillary items into the build. So it's like one seamless interface to configure the complete system. Last night we had a release which included, so although we completed all of the systems, we wanted to try and speed the algorithm up. Yeah, so we had some optimizations, and we also added in some options to exclude aux power from battery calculations. And then as we go on to what I call our final main release, I mean, we're constantly going to be innovating. But when I say a final main release, as far as performance enhancements are concerned, on November the 2nd, there will be significant improvements that will be very noticeable. And there's going to be a choice of configuration modes. So there'll be a rapid or fully optimized. So those of you that have tried it, and when you've got solutions that may be taking 2 to 3 minutes, or you know, in previous versions have timed out, these will now give you a reply within seconds. So it's a pretty impressive step up, and the team have done a fantastic job. And we don't stop there. So, you know, in January and February 2021, you know, one of the things that kind of fell below the line in the original project, which is being picked up by our sustain run team. I don't think I've done a demo yet where someone says, where's my drawing? So we've looked at it, and what you see on the screen is really a couple of mock-ups. You can see the 2D one. But what we've decided, and again through some VOC, this really makes sense to do we're going to add a drawing tab, but also add a 3D rendering of the panel, just based on the architecture of a 4100 ES. You know, and the fact that we've got all these multiple planes, you know, you've got bays and blocks and slots, and then you've got mezzanine cards and cards that can fit on other cards. It makes sense to do a rendering of that panel in 3D. And that will come with the usual controls. That with a 3D drawing, you'll be able to pan, tilt and zoom that drawing. And the other thing is you'll be able to download that drawing from the user interface, you know, directly to your desktop. So what I'm going to do, just before I quickly hand over to Mike, I'm just going to switch and just show you very, very quickly just some of the things that we added in the last night's release. So I'm just going to go to Add System. I already created a demo project. I'm going to pick the 4100 ES configurator, and then this will load the default configuration tree. If you hadn't seen it in the previous release, rather than everything being in one tree, we've now organized it into logical tabs. So we've got the main panel configuration options. You can think of it like the core. And then we've got the additional modules, and then enunciation, user-defined auxiliary power and battery calculations. So we think it's much easier organized to make those selections. What I'm going to do, you can see here, we've added some options in. And this is how it is this is how it was set in a previous release, right? So we allowed a single ESPS per bay, right? But we've added the option for the user to toggle. And again, I'm just going to go in here and just add simply 18 ID NAC circuits. They're fully loaded, right? So I've got 6 ID NAC cards. And when I go to that panel tab, this roughly takes anywhere between 35 and 36 seconds. So just please bear with me. Just sit back and enjoy the flight, as they say. It shouldn't take too long. And then I want to show you with that switch toggle, and you can actually see the difference, which is pretty amazing. And then the one on the second will probably produce the same in about a second. So the optimizations, as I say, the team have done a very nice job in improving the whole performance. One of the things that we couldn't do was do all these optimizations until we had all of the data complete, which I mean all of the different types of systems, from the basic panel, the redundant CPU, the transponders, remote enunciators, network voice command centers. We needed the whole data set to then start those optimizations. Now, just in this example, because I had allow single ES XPS per bay, this is created, you know, it's only got one charger because we've only got the one ESPS, but it's also created, you know, they have subsequent bays with an ES XPS with an ID NAC on top of it, which you'd like to think would actually be cheaper, and it is a cheaper power supply. And this is one of the things that this algorithm has allowed us to do, is to see the whole picture, because we're doing the power calcs and the battery calcs at the same time. If I just quickly switch here and turn that off, it won't allow the XPS per bay. It configures in 4 seconds. And now we've got multiple battery sets. We've got the 55 amp hour battery set there, and we've got a second battery set. And when you look at the big picture, when I save that, this solution is actually more cost effective than the old solution. And also there's installation savings there, because the other solution required 110 amp hour batteries, which needs an external cabinet. And that obviously incurs more labor and time, right, to fit that external box. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there. There is going to be training set up very shortly by our training team to conduct regional webinars on the latest version that you see here. So with that, I'm going to pass over to you, Mike.
Great, thanks very much, Jason. Now, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we have it.
You got it. All right. So we're going to talk about fire alarm system testing accountability. And I want to try to draw a line between how we see truth and how we can prove that what we believe is true is actually true. So we think about proof, you know, a lot of times we think about testimony, you know, and when maybe somebody goes to a courtroom, they put their hand on their chest and they swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. That's one way we consider it to be truthful. On the other hand, if they can't make it, sometimes they'll, sign an affidavit and say, yep, go in front of a judge or somebody and sign a piece of paper that this is what they believe is true. But, in the real world, sometimes it's easier for somebody to say that something is true than actually prove it. And I was thinking, if I went out to buy like this truck here, used truck, I could probably ask the sales rep, how many times has it been used? And he might say, well, it was only driven by an old lady to get to church on Sundays, hardly used at all. And I could take his word for it because I'm sure he's being honest with me. But on the other hand, what do car manufacturers do today? They build in a mechanism so that we can confirm how much that truck has been used. And I call it electronic evidence. It's something that we rely on more and more today than we do on human testimony. In fact, here's another example. When I go to the airport and I go to check in, and the gate agents, not the gate agent, the check-in lady says, are you going to check any bags? And I say, yep, I'm going to check this one right here. I'll tell you what, she never asks me how much that suitcase weighs. It's better for us to be more accurate. We put it on a scale, and that information gets, kind of compiled in some spreadsheet, and they can calculate how much weight that the aircraft can handle, because for life safety, we want to make sure that plane has the ability to take off and that its payload capacity has not been exceeded. So here we're not really, taking human evidence at face value. We're going to use electronic evidence every single time because we want to be safe. In fact, those aircraft, sometimes they weigh them, the whole aircraft, to make sure that nothing else has been put onto the plane that wasn't on that spreadsheet to make that plane not be able to take off. Another thing they ask you, or maybe they don't ask you, are there any illegal items in your bag? I don't think I've been asked that for a long, long time, because they take my bag and they put it through a scanner so they can tell themselves. They don't have to rely on my human testimony to guarantee the safety of the passengers. It's all based on electronic evidence. This same kind of dilemma was confronted by the trucking industry. The truckers get tired, long distance truckers. If they drive too far, they can get fatigued, and that can cause acceleration of accidents, which, oftentimes are fatal. So what they had was, they had this way for truckers to log all of their hours that they drove. And it was basically a book, and you just wrote down all the days and hours that you drove and make sure you didn't exceed it. Well, again, we're basing that whole thing on, the stroke of a pen, something that was human generated. Well, that's changed. Now they have regulations where these trucks are fitted with electronic logging devices. And even the the CEO of the trucking industry said it was a great thing because it makes the trucking industry so much more safe. Because now the electronic logging has to log how many hours the trucker has driven, and it has nothing to do with what he's put into his little paperwork. We know that highways are dangerous places, and oftentimes people get speeding tickets. But I challenge you to tell me how many police officers, put their finger up in the air when you drive by to gauge how fast you are going. None of them do. It would never hold up in court because it's just human testimony. Now what they do is when they want to charge you with, speeding, they use a calibrated electronic instrument that records the time and date and the speed logged, and they bring it to court, and I would bet you probably get convicted because it's electronic evidence. I mean, even as something as, you could call it trivial, I guess, as, a touchdown. One ref will say, oh, it's a touchdown. And what does the other ref say? Not yet. We need to consult the electronic evidence. And that's where they go, I think they call it under the hood, so that they can look at all of the electronic evidence that has been gathered for that particular play to make sure that, the guy's knee didn't touch the ground before he pierced the plane of the end zone. And there's no life safety at stake here, as far as I'm concerned. So there's many, many examples. I'm not going to go through them all, but if you think about your world, the world of all of us, it seems that electronic evidence has got a real big foothold in being more important than human testimony, especially when it comes to public safety. And I mean, sorry for the reference, but it looks like electronic evidence trumps human testimony every single time. If they have video of you, robbing the gas bar, and you can, you're appearing on that video in plain sight, I doubt that you claiming that you were at home is going to hold much weight when it gets to court, because electronic evidence is vastly accepted everywhere. So when we think about the life safety industry, especially fire alarm system testing, what are building owners required to do? Well, every single year at least, they have to test every input, and they have to make sure that the proper outputs activate, and they must document those tests. And they pay to get that done. Well, I think about this particular report is something we use up in Canada, but there's something similar in the NFPA world too. I'm thinking that this report is basically generated by a human. They write down what they say they tested, and they check boxes to confirm that things work properly or not. But to me, this is just another example of human testimony rather than electronic evidence. And I mean, I could sit anywhere and create this documentation, and really it's all based on how truthful I am in creating that. Well, this has come to light very recently, actually, in Canada especially. I'm not sure if it's similar in the US, but here the headline says that in St. Catharines there was a bunch of property owners that were charged because they were not in compliance with the requirements of the fire code. It was especially related to testing of their fire alarm systems. And I guess my point here today is, if electronic evidence is everywhere that we look in our society, the industry, the fire alarm industry, seems to have missed the boat so far, because all of our testing evidence is generated by a human's hands, and his judgment or her judgment. Even in Toronto, there were other companies charged with the same kind of thing. They were charged with fraud because they didn't do the work. They just gave fraudulent reports, Same thing happened out in Calgary. 65 Alberta Fire Code charges against a company in Okotoks. And they also charged the employees for being complicit. So, you know, the thing I'd like you to get from this is that it's not just the fire alarm inspectors and the testing technicians that are at risk. It's also your customers. And they go along to say that they charge several retail outlets. Those are the property managers that are getting charged. It's the first time that the city of Calgary has done this, but if you read on, they want to make sure our goals are compliance and public safety. We want to remind the businesses retaining services that it is their responsibility to make sure things are done properly. So, how can we help them? How can we help our customers improve the validity of their fire alarm system testing? You know, maybe getting more in tune with what we're doing in other parts of the world that, like I mentioned earlier, with respect to electronic evidence. Well, here's that report again, and it looks like, you know, there's a lot of things have been tested, but again, we know that it was just a human-generated report. How can we actually confirm that it was done exactly as the report says? Well, there's an interesting thing inside this little autocall panel, and it's called the Alarm and History and Trouble Log, and I believe it has at least 1,000 entries for each. It would be very easy for you, if you want to, you know, gain the trust of your customers after you install a new autocall system, for instance. If you want to reassure them that everything you're doing is above board and they would be fully compliant with fire code requirements, you could just extract the history log and give it to them with their inspection report. And if everything is, you know, copacetic, guess what? You'll have an entry in that history log to match every entry that you have in your report, and you will look gold. That might be a, you know, dramatic difference between you and your competition. The other thing is, if you don't want to go to the trouble of extracting the history log, if you have an autocall panel and you happen to understand the capabilities of ZAP, which I'm sure Chelsea's going to go into in a minute, you'll know that anytime you test a device like this smoke detector I've shown on the right, what happens with ZAP is the control panel's information gets pushed up to the cloud. And then from the cloud, it comes back to your testing technician's iPhone or Android or whatever to confirm that the information that he's seeing is actually direct feedback generated by the fire alarm panel, which means there's no fudging it. There's no, you know, scanning barcodes while you're sitting in a coffee shop, you know, which is quite possible to do. And, you know, the barcode people will you know, they'll try to dissuade you from that, but it's no lie that it's easy to fake out barcodes. But with ZAP, this is bulletproof. This is where the information that goes into your ZAP report comes directly from what the fire panel saw you do while you're in the field. So the ZAP report data, it's basically reflective of exactly what the history log says, and you know that you did the job thoroughly, and so does your customer. So I would suggest, if you want to be, you know, the prime service offering company, when you finish installing the system, after you've used Jason software to order the stuff, after you've installed it, you go and approach that customer and talk to them about human evidence versus electronic evidence. And if you use something like ZAP, it's already done. If not, you can use that history log to prove that you're doing the job the way it should be done. And again, electronic evidence trumps human testimony every time. Here's a bunch of examples. And with ZAP, we can include fire alarm verification reports and inspection reports, commissioning reports, if you want to call them that, to the list. And that's what, to me, is the true value of something like ZAP. I'm sure Chelsea's going to tell you all the wonderful features above and beyond this, but I think this is one that we should never understate. And that is it. I will pass it over to Chelsea, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat or I'll hang around. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for that sneak peek into the ZAP Gateway piece. I'm going to share my screen, and let me know once you guys can see it.
We see it.
Yep. All right, I think is it not showing the presentation mode?
No, it was in speaker mode.
Okay. Okay, all right.
That's it.
Okay, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chelsea Fu, Marketing Manager for ZAP. I started my career 8 years ago with the former Tyco Fire Life Safety domain and have been part of the commercial team of ZAP, working on this very exciting digital solution. Really glad to have this opportunity to introduce ZAP to all of you. For those of you who have never heard of ZAP, it is a cloud-based compliance reporting software that helps you to streamline your inspection process so you can maintain, track, and measure system compliance for your customers and manage the reporting needs much more efficiently. You'll see here that there are two essential components of ZAP. One is the mobile inspection reporting application. This is what usually inspectors and technicians will use to capture inspection data, pass or fail devices, and generate inspection reports from the mobile app at the end of an inspection. The other key component is ZAP web application. This is where you will set up the facilities and buildings of your customers, load devices information, and this is also where inspectors, service managers, and office admins, they can log into, view all the historical reports that performed through ZAP, and you can download and share reports from there. And additionally, you will even be able to grant view-only access to your customers to view their building and device information and access their reports at the customer level. In the middle of the slides, you'll see some visuals that illustrate how ZAP works. First, ZAP is really system agnostic, meaning that you will be able to use ZAP on a wide range of building systems and devices. So far, we have like over 400 plus devices types that you can choose from, that including fire alarm, sprinkler, suppression, security, so on and so forth. We do offer multiple inspection report templates that you can use out of the box, and that helps you to address any codes and requirements like NFPA, the Joint Commission, and DMV. Secondly, ZAP is also manufacturer brand agnostic. It doesn't matter that what brand is your building systems and devices, you will be able to use ZAP to inspect. But if you just so happen to have the certain supported panels from Autocall, that was the piece that Mike was referring to, which is called Gateway Subscription. So you will have the option to purchase that subscription on top of your software licenses. With that, you receive a Gateway hardware unit, and you will be able to plug into your panel, pull down points list, view troubles on your mobile phone, and then also send command directly to the panel. And there are a number of different ways you can get your system and devices data into ZAP. You can enter the data through the mobile application or do spreadsheet imports, including barcodes if you do use barcodes. And with supported panels, you have the additional option to pull down points through the Zap Gateway component directly. Then from there, you can go on a customer site and perform an inspection through the mobile application and view the reports from either the web app or mobile application. So essentially, Zap really helps you to establish a systematic inspection process, generate and manage your reports in a much more streamlined way. And in the following slides, we will go over some of the key values you can expect by using Zap. First up is to access compliance data 24/7. Time and time again, we hear that how much time people are wasting on calling, going through filing cabinets, and tracking down reports. With Zap, no matter what type of inspection they are for, and no matter which building and facilities you have performed on, and it doesn't matter who performed it, you will have the peace of mind knowing that for all the inspection you perform through Zap, you will have those neatly lined up under the structure of your customers, facilities, and buildings. So as long as you have access to a web browser, you will have access to the compliance data and the report repository. And also increase efficiency and accuracy. With the barcoding feature from Zap, you can turn from the mobile application, you will be able to utilize the built-in camera from your phone to recognize those asset barcodes. This makes it much more faster and easier to track your assets and link test results. We also support third-party barcode scanners with our partner that you can use along with our mobile application if you prefer a physical scanner. And if you have supported panels like the 4100 ES, 4010 ES, 4007 ES, as well as 4100U, you will have the option to purchase the Zap Gateway subscription. With that, you receive the hardware units, you plug into a panel, pull down points, view troubles directly from your mobile app, and send commands to your panels. So that process will really drive up the efficiency of your team and free up the second inspector who normally will need to stand at the panel. Another thing that you can expect getting from Zap is that consistency in the reporting, right? Zap has the out-of-box inspection templates we mentioned that you can leverage right away for the system devices like fire alarm, sprinkler, extinguisher, fire pump, e-lights, kitchen hoods, clean agent, and also CCTV and burglar alarm. For those of you who serve healthcare customers, you will also find the Joint Commission in DMV templates really helpful. And these templates we develop with top industry experts like Roger Reiswick, who some of you might be familiar with, who sit on code committees. So these reports can help you to stay compliant with NFPA, Joint Commission, and DMV standards. And since these reports, they all follow the same structure, no matter who on your team performs the inspection, and if you perform inspection at a certain different locations, they will all have this consistent format and structure, and you will be able to find the critical informations like deficiency informations you're looking for very quickly due to that continuity in all of your reports. Even though the out-of-box templates can probably cover a lot of your needs, we understand that there are times that you still need some customization that fits your own procedure and requirements. So when you set up your account, you will be able to upload your own logo. So your logo shows up on your reports to your customers, which we thought it's a very nice branding touch. And you will be able to add, remove, or change questions that inspections will be answering during the inspection process. From the screenshot here, you might be able to tell that you can even define what type of frequencies of the inspections these specific questions can show up on. And the beauty of ZAP is also that whether it's the frontline inspectors and technicians or office team members, or even your customers, if you choose to grant access to them, everyone is looking at and also working from the same shared source of data. So everybody is on the same page, and that way tasks can better coordinated. ZAP not only help you and your team to do a better job on the reporting and managing reports, it also have features to help make your customers' lives easier. With your subscription, you will get unlimited free view-only access permissions to your customers, which allow them to view the facilities, buildings, and devices data at their customer level, as well as the reports repository and the deficiency dashboard. In the deficiency dashboard, they will get an overall view into the health of the systems, and they can use those data to obtain quotes and schedule jobs with you. Here, we have a set of key features of ZAP. For the mobile application, which is the software inspector and technicians will normally use on site and perform inspections. At this moment, it's only available on iOS devices, but the Android version is coming up very soon in November. If we look at the features starting from multiple inspector here and go counterclockwise, ZAP allows multiple inspectors to work on the same report simultaneously. So if you have one inspector working on the first floor and have the second inspector working on another floor, they will be able to collaborate and complete the reporting process together. Each of them can see the real-time progress of the other person as they go through the inspection process. Images for deficiencies. With the mobile app, you can take pictures during your inspections to visually document deficiencies, do markups, and also choose to include in the report or not. The out-of-the-box templates are available to utilize right away. So far, we support NFPA, Joint Commission, and DMV standards, and we have templates for fire alarm, sprinkler, suppression, fire pump, kitchen hoods, and some security devices. And we are also constantly adding new inspection type templates to our collection. The offline mode. During your inspection, if the inspector somehow lost connectivity to the Wi-Fi, he or she will also be able to continue the inspection work. And once they are back online, the progress will be synced back to the cloud. Digital signature capture. Whether it's the inspector or facility managers, you will have the choice to sign off directly on reports from the ZAP mobile application. But of course, you should still have the option to send it off at the end of the inspection to the facility managers through email to sign it off from there, which is especially during a special time like this. Barcoding is also something ZAP supports. ZAP recognizes the asset barcodes, making it much faster to track those, we say quote unquote, dumb devices, and then link it to your test results. Also, in addition to these we've mentioned, the robust sorting and filtering features will allow you to quickly narrow down the devices you are looking for. And also the bulk actions will allow you to pass-fail multiple devices in a much more efficient way. And looking at the features for the web application, historical reports repository allows you to look back very easily. You can retrieve all reports through the web application and have the options to filter down to a number of based on the number of criteria like inspection types, time frame, etc., deficiency dashboards, gives you an overview into the system health based on the deficiency data you collected through the inspections. And customers can also utilize those data to get quotes and schedule jobs with you. Inventory management is a feature that's specifically in the Joint Commission in DMV format. So what it does is it automatically track and compares the list of devices covered during inspection with the list from the previous inspections performed through ZAP. And that allows you to document the reasons for the discrepancies. It could be building additions or renovations. And with our report editor, you can add or edit questions, change layouts, and also add your own logo to the templates when in scenarios when the out-of-box templates do not feature needs. Permission setting is something that you can control, who allows you to control who has access to individual buildings, locations, or types of system inspections, and even allow you to grant view-only access to your customers and let them access compliance data and reports at their own level. That concludes the preview of the key features and then the key values of ZAP. The ZAP software subscription is coming soon in November to the Autocall channel, and stay tuned for more details from your Autocall sales team and future editions of the webcast. Before I turn it over back to Peter for the Q&As, actually, I'm curious if we can do like a quick poll here. I don't know if Peter, the technology allows. How many of you are using a pen and paper or Excel spreadsheet currently for your digital reporting purpose,
Yeah, so there's a hand up option, and I see somebody already used their hand up option. If you click that up on the top of the application for Teams, we'll be able to get a count of how many people are using kind of the pen and paper application.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't think I can see that the feedback right now with my presentation mode, but
so far I got a window up here, Chelsea. So far it's 12.
Cool. All right, and then we have about
now 13. Yeah, now 13. So
okay, yeah. So the rest of you may be like either using internal tool or different solution. So the trend of the industry is really moving toward digital inspection, testing, and maintenance. ZAP is a really powerful tool solution to check out and leverage, not only to streamline your internal inspection process, but also bring a much better experiences to your customers. We've also heard the cases and feedback from our customers that they used ZAP Digital Reporting as a value add to their service offering, so to make it much more attractive an offer to their customers. And we've also heard that some of them, they were able to showcase their ZAP sample reports with their logo on and secure more jobs. Again, the subscription is coming soon to this channel within US in November. Stay tuned for more details from your Autocall sales team. All right, with that, Peter, I'll turn it over back to you for the Q&A sessions.
Fantastic, thank you, Chelsea, and thank you to everybody for your presentations and also for your for your time today. Before we switch into the questions, though, I did want to say one quick thing before we transition. I meant to mention this at the top of the meeting, but for those of you who joined on last Thursday, on the 15th, and we had a little bit of a mess up there with the scheduling. I just did want to raise that, and I wanted to apologize to you. So if you showed up and that session didn't come off, we sent out a notice today via the the internal email or the email centralized email box that Anne-Marie Roy has left Johnson Controls, and she's no longer with the marketing team. And there was, in the transition between her leaving and trying to reschedule the webcast or set the webcast back up again, there was a miscommunication or a lack of communication with some of the people on the distribution. So I wanted to apologize for that. If you showed up, I know your time is valuable, and I definitely am sensitive to wasting it. So my apologies for that. And if you need anything, or if you have something that you used to connect with Anne-Marie Roy about in the past, you certainly can reach out to me, and you can reach out to Aaron Palick, and we'll be happy to help you. So just wanted to get that comment made. So with that, we can open it up to questions. I've seen there's a few here, Evan, that have gone through on the templates and Zap, which look like those have all been answered. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask, or that they'd like to verbally address to the team? You can press the raise your hand button. Right now, I still see 3 people whose hands are raised from the poll that Chelsea just did. So if you want to put your hands down, that would be great. And we'll use the hands up as a signal that you're asking a verbal question. But I don't see any questions in the chat window that we haven't addressed yet. Okay, great. There is one question that came in, Chelsea. Maybe this is a combination of you and Evan. Do you have subscription pricing available for Zap?
Yeah. So, hey, Peter, I just can't wait to talk more about Zap. Something I believe in, through and through. So for those of you that don't know my background, I came from the operations side, leading the Johnson Controls service business for the past few years, which is really the largest service business globally. And something that many companies, and Mike alluded to it in his presentation, was the fact that we don't have a robust tool to harness all the data. And really, we're in a data business. We're reporting, right? We go in, we test, we inspect, we capture that data. It needs to be harnessed somewhere in the event of any type of loss. Somebody's looking to expand their building, and then having that data available at our fingertips is key to our industry. And yes, there's a few providers out there that can give us an application. I think what's been done here is the Zap team, since its infancy, has done a lot of A/B testing, has really understood the business and what's needed to come up with this robust application. So one thing I wanted to give here is think of Zap as an application of how you will operate your business in the future. So as we all try to create some really good processes to deliver operational excellence to our business, which in turn creates excellence for our end users, we should be looking for something to be our backbone to our business, whether it's a strong ERP, but more so if you're looking for the reoccurring business, which I hope most are, especially as we weather the pandemic, right? And if cranes come down, we need that strong service business to keep the bills paid, and we need something to help us run that, and that's Zap. So think of it that way. And then obviously in the future, and Mike alluded to it and Chelsea alluded to it, is we have some pretty cool things that are going to be bolt-ons, like our gateway capability to plug into our equipment to assure that testing has been completed. And essentially your iPhone becomes a roving annunciator with full control capabilities. As far as the templates, I'll let Chelsea speak to that. As I said, in my past life, I worked a lot with this team to make sure that we had the needed templates to make us effective and efficient out in the field. And as far as pricing, we can absolutely start having those conversations with you. If you're interested in trying this, so the only way we come up with a good, robust product is by having some of our key dealers and accounts help us out with some voice of the customer. So we have some pilots ongoing. I'm sure Chelsea would welcome a few more, and then we can talk pricing, absolutely. So Chelsea, I'll let you add on to that.
All right, cool. Thank you, Evan. So I see a couple questions, right? Regarding the templates, yes, we will be able to share those existing templates we have so far. And earlier, actually today, Peter and I were having a discussion about adding information on the Autocall websites. Maybe that's something we can also add to the login experience, so all the dealers will be able to get their hand on those Zap reports. As far as the pricing goes, Like Evan said, getting started with some conversations with your sales reps. One thing I wanted to point it out is the way Zap structured the pricing. We don't charge by per scan. I know there is other solutions out there on the market, right? They charge you per scan, but Zap is not structured that way. You're paying for per licenses per month for your inspectors, which means the more you leverage it, no matter how many different inspection types you're trying to use that bond, right? You are just getting a ton more value out of the subscription you're paying for.
Chelsea, one of the questions was regarding is Zap owned by JCI? And Rovigo responded yes, but I think there's a lot more to it, right? So this is created in-house with a group of engineers that sit together, that have done a lot of the field work to understand what is needed. I don't know if you wanted to piggyback on that and just talk maybe a little bit about the engineering team behind this robust application.
Yes, exactly. So this was one of the ideas, kind of morph out of idea that our founders really trying to put together solutions to help customers like this to streamline the inspection process, right? We have a dedicated engineering team sitting the headquarters of Johnson Controls in Cork Island. We also have Rovigo Manuccian. You might see he's popping here and there answering questions. He is our product owner currently in Ireland as well. So when we have dedicated engineering responsible working on the back end systems of the structure of our software, mobile application, web application, and also the gateway component. And then Rovigo is constantly prioritizing and hearing feedbacks from our current users and making sure they have been prioritized, and then we are creating solutions that meet our users' needs.
And I think, Chelsea, it's important to note that this is a solution that's already has deployments. This is something that's been in the market for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, Peter, that is quite important to mention. So this is a solution. We have over 4,500 active users that performing inspection every single month, and we have over 30,000 plus inspections performed through Zap every month. So it's definitely tested, and then we've tested and we've seen results with. And also we have a highly rated support team that you will be able to reach out to them by phone, line, or email. So by you buying a software subscription, right, you are not only getting just the software, but also the support that goes with it.
Great. Yeah, I just thought it was important to know this isn't a guinea pig situation. This is a fully deployed solution. So, okay, yeah, we do have a bunch of other dialogue going in here. I see one just taking a quick jump to the NetSync. There was a question from Rod, which says, does the selected master sync node automatically transfer to a backup if it goes down? And Ben, I see that you jumped on and said, in answer to that question, the MSN is needed when it's initialized. Do you want to just speak to that so everybody hears that quick?
Yeah, so just to answer that question, it doesn't need to be on all the time. So essentially, it's really needed when the network is initializing. So it has to get everything in sync, and then we'll resync from time to time just to make sure that there's any time dispersion across the network. But if the MSN goes down, then well, you need to address this because that's going to create a trouble. But all the notification will still remain sync from the last cycle.
Great.
I hope that answered that question.
Yeah. Then there has been a few questions here popped up too, and some dialogue about the Zap gateway. The dialogue was started by Chris. Are the Zap gateways permanent installation for full remote viewing 24/7, 365, or are they temporary during the interface inspection? And Rovigo jumped in and answered that one. I don't know, Chelsea, if you want to take that, or Rovigo, if you want to unmute and answer directly. I think that might be
Hey, Chelsea or Peter, I just wanted to add a little bit more context to the remote gateway. So the remote gateway
I think that would help.
is coming to a theater near you, I'll say, right? So we have it being tested, I shouldn't even say being tested, being used with multiple customers on site. So it's absolutely portable. It's something you plug into the serial port and you don't leave it there. So I think it was Chris that asked the question. Chris, you're on to the next page that I absolutely love. Yes, we need more remote diagnostics, the health of the system when we're not on site, all those type of things. So I'm with you there. That's not what this is. But yes, it'll be portable. The other piece of this is a lot of people get hung up on the fact, oh, this is really cool. You know, they got this gateway that talks to my cell phone as I'm walking around doing a one-person inspection or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's about the application, right? And the application is super robust, super intuitive. We have our own engineering team that is gathering the voice of the customer constantly to make it more robust, and we can alter things on the drop of a dime because we own it and we own the engineers. You know, sorry, I shouldn't say we own the engineers. We have the group of engineers that work internally to Johnson Controls that can make these changes on the fly as needed. The icing on the cake really is that as for you, all of you as an Autocall dealer, the more panels you hang on the wall, the more capability and value you have, not only to have operational excellence internally, to increase profit margins and efficiency with your inspectors, but for the end user, for even more peace of mind from that electronic confirmation that testing has been complete. So wanted to lead with the product being Zap as an application, and then the bolt-on is the gateway. And that's why the gateway is leased separately when we talk about the gateway versus the application. I hope that creates some clarity.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple other questions along with that, Evan, which was regarding around how the gateway connects to the panel, whether it's Ethernet or serial or how that physically is done. Can you speak to that, Chelsea?
Yeah, so there is a couple different ways you can connect to gateway. You can use a Wi-Fi connection, Ethernet, and then also there is the cellular option. So
well,
feel free to add to it.
Add a little bit on that, Chelsea. I think there are two different ways. So the gateway needs to be connected to internet, and Chelsea was explaining how the gateway will grant access or will get access to the internet. But in order to connect the gateway to the panel, we use the serial port to connect the gateway to the panel. And the only panels that are supported currently are the 4100ES, 4100U, and the 4007. And yeah, I don't know if I'm slipping one other model, Chelsea.
4010.
In the 4010.
Yeah, in the 4010. Yes, correct.
Hey, Brian, good to see a note coming from you, and congrats on getting up and running so quickly and onto this call. I appreciate seeing you on here. So to answer your question, you know, where you and I met was in the healthcare realm in Miami area. And so Chelsea, I think this is something probably exciting you can speak to. So Brian asked about healthcare capabilities and the Joint Commission capabilities. So did you want to speak to that quickly from a template perspective?
Yeah, we can definitely share the templates of the current. And Ravigo, do you wanted to speak to that on the details of like what are the ones we already include?
Okay, sorry. Can you? I was reading all the messages. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so Brian was asking about the EPs, the compatibility of the EPs, how the reports are laid out for Joint Commission using our templates.
Okay, cool. So we currently support a variety of EPs. We go from EP1 up to EP20, and you can inspect multiple EPs at the same time, multiple tests to perform at the same time. And the report is generated in a way that each EP has a starting portion and a final portion. We start with the general summary of that EP, with the summary of the devices, with all the changes that had happened during the inspection related to the inventory. Then we have a brief introduction about what that EP is related about. And we close the EP with the signature of the inspectors. So if we perform 3 or 4 EPs at the same time, which is very often that happen, we are going to have a main report with an initial general page. Then you are going to have 3 blocks within that report. And each block is going to contain only the information for that specific EP. Does that answer the question? Okay.
I think that helps for sure.
And let me jump with the other question really quick, and probably that's interesting for everyone. Yes, Bryce, you can create your own custom reports. You can create your custom inspection. So for us is we have a set of default system inspection types that you can use and have pretty much everything covered. But if you need to have something specifically assigned for your company, you can use the same report as a baseline, and then you can add multiple other questions if you want. And you make your own report with your own questions.
So real life scenario, this is, again, why I love this application. So we have a lot of those customers, I'll call them unique. I was going to say difficult, but unique customers that have some very specific asks of our technicians as they get on site. You know, did they wear their pink boots? Did they, you know, sign in at the, you know, southwest entrance? Did they, you know, do all these different things? Did they put the yellow dot on the ceiling to identify where the sprinkler valve is? All those type of things. It's fully customizable to what Rovigo had said. So we may have like a mining site that has certain safety protocols that have to be followed each and every time you pull a pull station, heat a heat, smoke a smoke. You can build those questions into the report. And then also fully customizable reports. We have the templates built, several of them like we were speaking about. But what Chelsea alluded to during her presentation is, you know, it's somewhat of a one-stop shop. You know, we can facilitate inspections or question templates, we'll call it, for all different machinery, safety needs, all those type of things. So Bryce, appreciate you bringing up that question. That helps out a lot. And I think as we round out on time, I know we still got a fair amount of time, but I just wanted to leave you guys with this, is that this is not the last presentation you'll see from a Zap perspective. This was a little bit of a teaser. I mean, if you follow some of us on LinkedIn and whatnot, we've been posting the videos and the websites, but now it's here. You know, now it's going to be available to all of you as our valued Autocall partners. So you may have lots of questions to come. We'll be available for you, but there'll be further webcasts directly related to Zap and how it can create a better atmosphere for your customers and for you as our customers.
Absolutely, well said. So just looking here, it looks like you know, there haven't been any other questions popped in that we haven't answered, and I don't see any hands raised. So we'll give it maybe a couple more seconds. We'll do a going once, going twice call like the auctioneers do. But to Evan's point, we'll be looking to schedule some webcasts, you know, follow-up webcasts in November. Like I said, the idea for this Academy series is to be an ongoing one and a resource for you in terms of knowledge and product launches. And Zap will absolutely be a key piece of that. And as Chelsea mentioned, we've been having conversations. We're going to be adding Zap to the Autocall website, so there'll be content added to the public side of it, so that you can showcase that to your customers, and there'll be informational materials, and then we'll also put resources for pricing and the other materials behind the dealer login section as well. So we started on that today, and by the time the launch happens in November, the site will be up and ready to go. So so that's that'll be taken care of. I don't see any other questions here, and there are hands raised. So Evan, I'm thinking let's it's probably a good time to tie this up and let everybody move on with the rest of their day. Absolutely. Thank you, and be safe. And we value your partnership greatly, and we look forward to the interactions in the FY21 that we have ahead of us. Thank you.